Picture this, a single drop of oil falls into the ocean. To us, it looks like pollution, but to certain bacteria, it looks like food. Now imagine another story. A tiny particle of mercury enters the sea. Small fish absorb it, and the bigger fish eat the small fish. But where did the bigger fish end up? On our dinner plates. These two stories reveal the double-edged power of biology. One side gives us solutions, microbes that clean and heal, while the other creates hidden dangers, toxins that build silently inside living things. In this video, we'll explore both processes, bioaugmentation and bioaccumulation. One is nature's tool for restoration, the other a warning about the consequences of pollution. Together, they show us how biology shapes the future of our planet, for better or for worse.
Here's a question. If more than 80% of wastewater worldwide is released untreated, what can science do to make it safe again? The answer lies in bioaugmentation, adding beneficial microbes and into polluted environments to break down waste. Take wastewater treatment plants. By introducing bacteria that feed on organic pollutants, water becomes cleaner, faster, and safer without relying heavily on chemicals. Or think about the massive oil spill. After the Exxon Valdez disaster in 1989 and the Deepwater Horizon spill in 2010, scientists used oil-eating bacteria such as Alkani-Borax. Research showed these microbes reduced oil pollutants by up to 90% in certain regions within months. So why does this work? Because these bacteria treat pollutions not as poison but as food. And every time they break it down, they help restore ecosystems, directly supporting the UN Sustainable Development Goals, especially Clean Water SDG 6 and Life on Land SDG 15.
But here's the other question. What happens when pollutants are non-biodegradable? That's where bioaccumulation begins. When toxic substances like mercury, lead, or pesticides build up in the tissues of living organisms. Consider mercury. According to the World Health Organization, over 17 million infants every year are born exposed to unsafe levels of mercury, often because their mothers ate contaminated fish. Mercury enters rivers and seas, gets absorbed by plankton, eaten by small fish, then bigger fish, and finally by us. Each step in the chain multiplies the concentration of mercury. History also warns us through the Minamata disaster in Japan. Industrial mercury waste poisoned fish and shellfish, and when communities consumed them, thousands suffered severe neurological damage. A tragedy that still reminds us of the dangers of unchecked pollution. Or think of DDT, once considered a miracle pesticide. Scientists later discovered that DDT accumulated in birds of prey, like eagles. The eggshells became so thin that populations in some areas dropped by over 80%. This happens because substances like mercury and DDT cannot be broken down. They persist, accumulate, and magnify through food webs, a process called biomagnification. The consequences are clear. For people, it threatens good health, SDG 3. For ecosystem, it endangers life below water, SDG 40.
But here's the other question. What happens when pollutants are not biodegradable? That's where bioaccumulation begins, when toxic substances like mercury, lead, or pesticides build up in the tissues of living organisms. Consider mercury. According to the World Health Organization, over 17 million infants every year are born exposed to unsafe levels of mercury, often because their mothers ate contaminated fish. Mercury enters rivers and seas, gets absorbed by plankton, eaten by small fish, then bigger fish.
Let me ask all of you one simple question. What do you think happens when pollutants doesn't break down? That's right. This pollutants doesn't just disappear, they build up layer by layer, one by one, and this is what we call bioaccumulation. Now when toxic substances like mercury, lead or pesticides are piled up inside living organisms. Now take mercury for example. Did you know that according to the World Health Organization, the WHO, over 70 millions of infants every year are born to exposed to unsafe levels of mercury, to the point of mercury poisoning even when they are just born. Now often because their mother just ate some contaminated sushi. Now picture this, right? Mercury seeps into the river, it seeps into the ocean. Now they get absorbed by the plankton. Afterwards, the plankton gets eaten up by a small fish, and then the small fish gets eaten up by the bigger fish, and finally in the end it ends up on our plate and ends up in our stomach. Now at every step of it getting transferred, the concentrations multiply. So by the time it reaches us, the human stomach, it becomes far more dangerous and far more harmful to our health. Now, history have already shown us the cost, the impact of what will happen to us if this keeps on happening without any control. Now, have you heard of the Minamata disaster in Japan? Industrial mercury waste poisoned fish and shellfish and other aquatic animals in the rivers and ocean. Now, the most important part is the whole communities. Those who ate those fish, those who ate seafood, are suffering from severe neurological damage. Now, thousands of lives are changed forever. Their symptoms, they don't stay, the symptoms, they don't go. They just stay at the body and it's forever there. Now, that is still a tragedy that reminds us of what happens and how deadly unchecked pollution can be. Now, let's think about DDT, right? Once hailed as the miracle pesticide. Well, guess what? Later on, scientists discovered that it was silently harming wildlife. For example, the bird of prey, like eagles. When they lay eggs, the shells are so thin and so soft to the point that it broke before even hatching. Now, this causes the population in some areas to drop more than 80%. Now, why is this happening exactly? Why is this keep on happening to us? It's because of these chemicals. Chemicals like mercury and DDT. They don't just vanish, they persist and they accumulate. Now, as they move through food webs, they don't just add up, they amplify to even worse. And that's biomagnification. Now, the consequences, the impacts, the consequences, everything, they're all crystal clear. For us, it threatens our good health. And for the ecosystem, it puts our life below water at serious risk. So let me ask you a real question. How much are we willing to risk before we act?